have just hit 6:30. It's time to get started. But first, as always, I have some announcements to make, and I want to introduce myself before I introduce our speaker tonight. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this webinar, How to Succeed at NaNoWriMo. I'm Christina. I run the adult programs here at the Bloomingdale Library, and we do have quite a variety of programs coming up that I want to remind you all of. So this month is October, and in the month of October every year, Roselle, Itasca, and Bloomingdale Libraries join up for an event called On the Same Page. And that's where we choose a book and we plan a bunch of programs based on that book's theme. And this year's book is Inheritance by Dani Shapiro. It's a memoir about Dani finding out through DNA research that her father is not actually her father. And so she goes on a journey trying to figure out why that is and who her biological father actually is. It's quite a wonderful memoir. We really enjoyed it. And so we planned a bunch of programs around writing and genealogy and family histories. So if you're interested in coming to any of those programs, you can check out the Bloomingdale Library, Roselle, and Itasca. We all have programs going on about that theme. And so we also had some writing events happening. The other week we had a writing event. Did you ever think of writing a memoir? So now that we're gearing up towards November, I'm sure our presenter tonight is going to explain what NaNoWriMo is, but I'm assuming that if you're here, you kind of know what it is. So, now is a great time to do some writing and figure out if you're going to write a fictional novel, a nonfiction book, or a memoir. All right, so as far as other programs that we've got going on at the library, we do have a virtual program happening on Monday, October 23rd, and that is 12 Things That Make Life on Earth Possible. And this is presented by our astro educator from the Adler Planetarium, Michelle Nichols. She was just here last month to talk about the upcoming eclipse. And if you are still in the market for some eclipse glasses, we will have some available before the April eclipse event. So make sure if you didn't get some for this most recent one that you come back to the library in April to grab some more. And again, that's a Zoom webinar, 12 Things That Make Life on Earth Possible, next week, Monday, October 23rd. The following week, we're going to have a Zoom webinar called Dead People of Illinois. So this is a fun Halloween cemetery tour brought to you by outdoorsman John Lynn. And I'm actually going to be in Florida that week, so my boss is stepping in to host. So come join us for those virtual webinars. We've got a bunch more stuff happening in November, but like always, you guys know how to sign up for programs. So just go to the library's website, look at the calendar, and see what adult programs are happening at the library. All right, so now I think we're ready to get started with tonight's program, How to Succeed at NaNoWriMo. So please welcome our speaker tonight, Sam McAdams. Hi, Sam.
Hello. Hello. Welcome, everyone. I see we've got a few people on. I know one of them, Jenny Johnson, is one of our other co-leads here for the region, the Naperville region. So we'll the idea here is to go over some tips that we've learned over the years on how to succeed at NaNoWriMo. We'll start off with a quick introduction here. Jumping too many pages here. So we'll go around with the handful of people that are on the call right now and just go through how much you know about Nano, if you've tried it before, have you been aware of it, have you tried it, if you have, how many times have you participated in it and tried to and what you find as your biggest challenge in doing it. For me, I'm one of the 4 municipal liaisons for the Naperville region of NaNoWriMo. We'll get into really what NaNoWriMo is and all of that in a couple of slides here. But the Naperville region covers really all of the western suburbs So we go from as far as like Schaumburg to Oak Park to Joliet to even DeKalb, Sycamore, and Elgin and that and everything in between there. Um, so even though it's called the Naperville region, it's really the entire western suburbs that we're covering. In my nano handle, I didn't put it in there, but it's just S.A. McAdams, nothing very inventive there. Where some other folks, when you get in there and you log in, you can come up with whatever kind of a name you want to call yourself. I've participated in Nano 15 times and have succeeded each time that I've done it. And we'll get a little bit more into this other part. 7 times I've done it as a Nano Rebel. So I haven't done the traditional Nano. And again, we'll talk about what that means coming up here. And actually this time, so it'll be my 16th time, I'll also be doing it as a Nano Rebel again. So I'll be half of my time, I'll be doing it as a Rebel. And again, we'll explain a little bit more of what all that means. And I heard about this event. That's the other thing we wanted to know was how did you hear about this event? And you know, I heard about it because I'm hosting it and I scheduled the whole thing. So that was pretty obvious on that one. So I don't know if we can. Are they able to open up their mics to talk, or do we just have them put things into the chat?
You know what? I think everyone is muted because this is like our webinar settings. But if anyone has anything that they want to put in the chat, please feel free. Like if you've already registered, like he says, your pen name and whatnot, you can put that all in the chat or the Q&A and we could read it out. But if anyone's curious, I have signed up for NaNoWriMo in the past. And it was hilarious because you guys reminded me of that. And it's been so long that I forgot my pen name was something like Dollar Princesses because I was obsessed with historical fiction romance novels about American women who were ultra rich that would go across the ocean and marry like royalty in England. And they were known as dollar princesses because all of the dukes and these guys in England had no money, these castles that were falling apart. So they would marry these Americans with tons of money. And that was the novel I was going to write. Did I ever get around to it? No, I never did. No. But that's just a little bit about me. And it looks like somebody else has a chat going.
Yeah, Jenny's she's one of the other MLs or municipal liaisons, as we call it, is what that stands for. So the leads for the region. As she said, she's done it 14 times. Almost catching up to me.
And I think earlier, Sam, you said at any time, if anyone wants to pop in with a chat question or anything like that, we'll address it in the moment.
Exactly. Because yeah, as we're going through the slides, if you have a question on that, type it in, let us know, and we'll get to it right then. Let me go through kind of quickly what Nano is, and then we'll get to one of kind of going back to the question that we had at the beginning there is, what has been some of your blockers to getting that novel written either in Nano or outside of Nano. So NaNoWriMo, it's a worldwide, even though it's called National Novel Writing Month, it's actually a worldwide event. There's thousands of people across the globe that are participating in this. And the goal is to write 50,000 words of a first draft of a novel in the 30 days of November. So as we're saying, you kind of take advantage of a couple of things here with that challenge, in that it's actually a SMART goal. And we're going to kind of go through that if you're familiar with those and you've had to set those for work, what your goals are for the year. And they always make sure, it's a SMART goal. This actually it's a little bit more fun than the ones I've ever had to do at work. But that's, I think, part of why it works. And the other big thing of what you take advantage here is the community aspect of it. You're not just doing this alone. You're doing it with thousands of people across the globe and dozens of people within this region that you can get together with. We'll have all kinds of events and things like that during the month of November that you can come in and write. So as we mentioned, it's a SMART goal, and there's actually a couple of different ways of looking at it as being a SMART goal. So the whole SMART goal thing was, it has to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So this hits all of those things in a very simple challenge. You know specifically what you have to write, 50,000 words in a novel. Now, the purest, and if you're doing this for the first time, we would recommend that you do it as the pure way that they want you to do it, which is you're starting a brand new novel that you haven't written anything for on November 1st, and you're actually completing the novel in at least 50,000 words by the end of the month. So it's measurable. You can track this. The website for NaNoWriMo.com has everything available there for you to track all your progress as you're going along through the month. They made sure that this was something when they first started doing this, the group that kicked it all off 20 some odd years ago, made sure that this really was something that was achievable. It is something that can be done. It takes, as we'll talk about a little bit in a couple of slides, it takes about 2 or 3 hours a day of effort, but you can do this. You can fit this into your schedule, even if you're working full time. It's relevant because you really will have a novel. It'll be a draft of a novel. And again, one of the things we'll stress throughout this is it's okay. Your first draft is going to be bad. Don't worry about it. So the goal during November is just get the words down on paper, get the story out, get to that 50,000 words. And then the last part, it's time bound. So it's 30 days in November. You can also look at it as a daily goal. So each day, so the 50,000 words breaks down into 1,667 words a day. So again, you can track this all on the Nano site. So you can be looking at this every day. Maybe you split your writing up during the day, and you can keep track each time you write and how many words you write, and even track this on a daily basis. They'll show you a graph of where your progress is, and it'll show you for that day, there's a line that'll show you whether you're on track or not on track for achieving that average of 1,667 words a day. So as we mentioned, measurable, specific. It's measurable even at a daily level here. And it's relevant because you're constantly getting steady progress every day. And again, time bound at this point, you're only doing it each day. Now, what's nice about Nano and having to spread across a whole month is you've got time to kind of catch up, fall behind a little bit, catch up. So you don't have to hit this every single day, but for some people, it works better this way to make sure that they're hitting this number each day. So success starts with making sure that you've given yourself a goal. And you can also do, I've mentioned this being a rebel. So being a rebel, you can do a number of different ways of being a rebel. So the purist, anything other than being the purist, which is starting a brand new novel on day 1 of November and finishing it by the end of November, anything else is kind of considered to be a rebel. But you can set your own goal within there. You don't have to necessarily go with the 50K goal. You can set a smaller goal. You can start editing a novel. You can do a set of short stories. You can write, a flash fiction piece a day or something. You can really look at anything else that's writing related or even anything that you're doing, just to use the energy, the scheduled events to get some work done. As I like to say, though, it's like after you've done Nano a few times and you've got 6 or 7 drafts of novels written, that are first drafts and need lots of editing, you eventually want to start doing something different and going back and editing those instead of writing yet another novel that needs to major amount of editing. So what we stress a lot of times, in the group, and what we continue to always stress is that any progress is good progress. Any progress is good. So even if you get in November and you start off and you're going gangbusters and something happens in your life and you can't make it and you can't finish, that's okay. You still have more words written now than you did at the beginning of the month. Or if you get into it and you realize, hey, I can't keep up with the 1,667 words a day, you can readjust your goals, but try and keep writing, keep it going, and just kind of set a lower goal. Maybe only try and do 1,000 words a day, and so you get to 30,000 by the end of the month. But that's still 30,000 more words than what you had at the beginning of the month. So what we kind of wanted to do now, I think with what we've got set up right now with this one, I don't know if we can do too much interactive. But we will kind of show you quickly the site. Let me a second here. I think what we were going to go through is just kind of give you a little bit of a view of what the site looks like, how to plan and track things. And just kind of think about, what do you want to do here? Because I was trying to think if this was where we do this or not. Well, we'll give you a little look at the site and then we'll kind of come back to this later. But once you log into the site, you'll have a set of your stats, and this is where you'll end up seeing things on a graph. This was one of my older ones. And you'll see here's the line that shows where your progress is. And now this was one of those ones where I did do the 50K. This was the last nano. And then this is the bar that's showing your progress. So you're coming in here each day, entering in your total word count. When things kick off in November, you'll see some other drop downs in here to make it easier to add in your words. Right now, this is an old project, so I can't really add much more updates in it, but you can come in here, add an update, put in how many words. These other things, you can use these or not use these, kind of show how you're feeling that day, where you were writing, how you were writing, whether you were using a laptop or not. Those things you can do if you want to. You don't have to fill those out. The same with the time, but you do want to have the right day. And you can fill in things for older days too. So like if you forget one day to enter in your numbers, you can come back in here, pick the right day and set up and put in your time, and it'll record it for that right day and time. So a lot of this too, as we're kind of going through this, if you're doing it for the first time, and we're really encouraging you to try and hit the 50K, but as we said in a number of these things, do something that makes sense to you if you're really struggling and you realize you can't do that. Now, what we would like to get is if some folks who have tried this before, tried Nano, maybe had some issues with trying to complete it in the past, or just in general have tried to write a novel in the past and then something kind of derails you from getting that done. What are those things that derail you? I know for me, it was just finding the time to write, actually sitting down, getting my butt in the chair and actually typing and writing. So folks maybe can type some things into the chat. We've got one at the family, just you're demanding, especially around the Thanksgiving time. It's going to be a challenge. And we actually talk about that a little bit in one of the slides coming up here, where we'll talk a little bit about some strategies around that. Maybe you get, you start off gangbusters and then you kind of get stuck and you can't think of what to write next. So we'll talk about a few things like that, and get around, how can you kind of break through that writer's block.
Yeah, Katie, who chimed in earlier, her username is Laxadaisicat. I love that. She says she's too tired from work and commute. And I totally feel you, Katie. I have a long drive too. Oh, and we have Nancy who says, wow, that's really good, Jenny. Yes, I get derailed by time management. And then if I fail behind, I feel like a failure, then start losing ambition. Yeah, that's a hard one. Yeah.
And we'll talk about some of that and some strategies to kind of plan, especially around that Thanksgiving. I might as well just start talking about it now. We'll get to it again later, but planning ahead, this is really where you want to start strategizing and planning ahead a little bit. And know that that's what's going to happen. So if you know, hey, almost every Thanksgiving I'm going to get bogged down. I got family responsibilities. Some people have to travel. They're going back to see their families. Then really look at your calendar and figure out when can you get ahead. So try and get ahead before then, so that you know that you're going to have some slow days where you're not going to be able to write, maybe not get any words in. But if you can get ahead before Thanksgiving comes, then you can rest easy, enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday, and then come back and pick up for the last few days. In fact, we have a lot of people that will try and get done before Thanksgiving because it's just too much for them to have hanging over their head if they can't get it done before Thanksgiving. And this year, Thanksgiving is a little bit later, so it may be possible for some people.
Yeah, in the past when I've done this, I always felt like I let it go because I couldn't decide if I wanted a outline or if that was bogging me down and I didn't like my outline anymore and I just wanted to wing it. So either way, you could get stuck.
Exactly. So that's another fine line of how much planning is enough planning, and that's going to be individual for each person. Because some people, if they don't have a plan, then it's hard to keep going. Other people, if they have a plan, it kind of derails them because they're like, oh, I'm off of my plan, and maybe I should get back to that. But there's a couple of us here. The two MLs that you're talking to here are pretty much what we call pantsers. There's a difference. They call them either planners or pantsers, and then plantsers are somewhere in between. Jenny is a hardcore pantser. She almost does no planning. I do a very minimal amount of planning and then just go. And usually I have an outline that I throw away within the first week and just keep going. As Jenny says, planning makes it less fun. And that's really one of the goals of this, is just have fun with it, and just get some words down, get your ideas down, get that story out. So one of the other things too that a lot of times can derail people during Nano is that they try and edit as they're going, and that will be a momentum killer. So really lock up that internal editor. That's one of our first things to advise everybody as you're going into Nano. This is about getting words down. Worry about the grammar and edits and all of that stuff later. That can start in December and beyond. Right now, it's just get those words down. Especially, when we do what we call these write-ins, if you're not familiar with those, we do events almost every day in Nano where you can get together either virtually online or at multiple libraries throughout the area, and we'll write for those couple of hours. And during those, we'll do what we call these word wars. So it'll be 15 minutes and see who can write the most words in these 15 minutes. And in those, I mean, you really just need to completely shut off your inner editor and just type. Don't even go back and try and fix words, fix misspellings. Just keep going. So I think we talked a little bit about this this was something that a number of people had kind of brought up was, that the either kind of that blank page, not knowing what you're going to write. So maybe, kind of the first thing, this is the tips we have here are more kind of like as you're writing. So maybe beforehand you did come up with an outline or something, but you got to a scene and you're just kind of stuck on it and you don't really know where to go next. So we have a number of tricks for that. So one of our favorite ones is the throw a dragon at it. Now that can literally be just throw a dragon into your story. Now that makes better if you're actually writing a fantasy novel or something like that. But the idea is to just throw something crazy at your characters and see how they overcome it. Just add that excitement because maybe what's happened is you've kind of lost your enthusiasm for the story. This is going to reinvigorate you, have that crazy thing kind of kick in and really get you going again. Just something completely off the wall. You can just, if you know that this is a scene that you want and you're just having trouble working that scene out, just make some notes. Make some notes in the Word document or whatever you're using to write it. Put those notes in, count those as words for the month, and just kind of leave yourself a placeholder so that you can come back to it later and really work that out at a later time during the editing process. Or maybe a couple days from now, all of a sudden that spark hits you and you're like, oh, okay, wait, I know what to do. And you can go back and do that scene. Brainstorming with your fellow writer, with a fellow writer or fellow writers at the write-ins, you can ask for that. So these different events where we're all getting together to write, you can ask the group that's there to kind of help you for a few minutes, or maybe somebody in there can take a little bit longer time and really help you brainstorm through a session. Creating a list. This is something that I'll do a number of times when I get really stuck on something, or I know I want to do a scene that I just don't know how it's going to unfold. I think about what's really blocking me, and then I'll take that and write a list of like possible things that I could do next. What could I do next to have happen in this story? And it's good to do at least like 10 to 15 of those, because the first few kind of just get you going and you kind of do them as like normal ones that you would think of, easily, right? And then you start really getting to the more interesting ones the far longer and longer you go through your list. You can try and switch the point of view, start a chapter from the villain's viewpoint, just kind of refresh you, get you in a new space, help you. That could really spark your creativity. And then just the kind of the normal things of just taking a break away from it all. Go for a walk, go for a long drive, even just like for me, cooking. I'm a big fan of naps, so and that would help with one of the other issues with people being tired. Is I enjoy a nap, and a 20-minute nap. I mean, you've heard about those. It's one of those big things that executives do. A lot of artists, and Salvador Dali did them. Einstein would do them, and you want to keep it to 20 to 30 minutes. More than that, then you don't wake up. You wake up tired, and you really need a more complete nap. But if you keep it to 20 minutes, you'll actually find yourself very refreshed from that. And sometimes it'll spark some ideas as you're kind of dozing off a little bit, and think about what you're going to write next. Take that nap, and then as you're napping, you'll kind of mull over in your brain and make some of those crazy connections and get you ready to write the next part. You can also go to some random plot generators. We got some links on our pages that you can use to get some varying degrees of a plot generator. Some of them are a little crazier. Mine tends to be some really crazy ideas. Other ones give you something that's a little bit more reasonable to work with. And now with ChatGPT, that's another great place to go to and just start a conversation with them and ask them for some help, and they'll always have ideas, you know. And then the other part is just to join a word war. Sometimes that's, and we'll see that a lot of times, even just during the write-in, somebody will be like, I need a word war to just really get going here, because they were kind of just weren't really feeling it. And then that pressure of the time constraint and the competitive nature really gets them going, and it gets them through that scene that they were struggling with. So quite a few ideas on here. If there's anybody else that has any other ideas that they've used in the past, just go ahead and put them in the chat. Jenny, one of our other MLs here again, she's a big believer in the word wars, and there's many people that are really, really big on those. And
I don't know if anybody watches a lot of like booktube, but there's like writers on YouTube that often do writing sprints. So if there's like a YouTube author that you like to watch, sometimes they'll have just streaming videos where for like 25 minutes they'll, just be writing in the background, and it's almost like you're writing with a friend. It's really fun. And there's whole communities around certain authors on YouTube. So there's usually a lot of people like chiming in the chat and stuff. But those are always fun to go back to and just write on your own with.
And we'll have a Discord link for our group. Plus, there's a lot of like the @NanoSpritz on Twitter that Jenny just posted in the chat. There's a lot of other ways that you can just get online and just virtually through chat and that, and kick off word wars and that. And NanoSprints will be doing those all the time around the world. They're always doing them, so they're coming in all the time. One of the other things that comes up, so another tip in there is just to kind of go back to do a throwback and bring back some other character setting, something that you really enjoyed writing before, and then bring that back into the story, so that you have something that you're familiar with and enjoying writing. Right, the whole idea is this is really meant to be fun. One of the other things that can happen is you can get derailed by just lots of new ideas that pop in. Now, really where this comes into be a problem is if it's like a whole new story and then you want to jump in and start writing that whole new story, it'll derail you from getting that novel written if you're looking at really focusing on doing that 50K word novel. So at this point, the idea is just, kind of jot down those ideas so you remember them for later. Again, you can count those and, put them into your novel and count them later. And maybe if you finish earlier and maybe you finish your story, you finish your novel, but it was only 40K, you can kind of go back to those other ideas and write some short stories to get up to that 50K. And now you're kind of being a rebel, but you've still done the 50K in the month of November. Researching, again, you'll kind of see a common theme here. Try not to get too bogged down in this. Do some of this in October, between now and the beginning of November, especially if you're writing some kind of a historical fiction in that, or you're doing a fiction novel, nonfiction. Do as much research ahead of time. But then also, if you need to do, as you're researching something, sometimes you're going to just need to do that to write the scene. You're like, hey, I need to know how to poison somebody. If you have some time, keep it short. Don't do more. Like we say, try not to do more than 5 minutes, just to kind of get a quick thing, if that'll help you write the scene. Other times, just as we said in other cases, jot down some notes in the document, highlight them, and make it something that you come back to and work with later. Or you can ask a fellow writer if they can help. And I think we've got a slide coming. And things like names and stuff like that, you can use random name generators, things like that, locations, names of things. So you're not spending too much time coming up with the names. You can do something fairly quick in that case to give you a name and just put it again as a placeholder. You can change it later on, but at least you've got a name that you can go with for the rest of November. And one other thing that we'll point out relatively quickly, because folks that have been to our prep workshops have heard this story before, but there is a reference text. There's a lot of resources within the Nano site as well. And again, it's thousands of people all across the globe with all kinds of experiences and different day jobs and that they're doing and different educations that they had and careers. So if you have a specific question on something, you can go to this reference desk, ask your question in there, and usually within a short time, you'll get an answer back from experts in that field. One of our other MLs, Tim Yao, always talks about this and getting, marine biologists to help him with whale questions, and he gets two of them answering the question within just a few minutes. So another good way to just minimize that effort that you're taking to do that research effort during the month of November and keep it short so that you get what you're looking for as fast as you can and get back to the writing. So moving along to one of the other big blockers is finding the time to write. So again, this is a great way. NaNoWriMo for me has been a great way of doing it. For a number of years, it was the only month I could actually get any writing done. I couldn't do it any other month. But if you're struggling to find the time, write whenever you can. Break it up into smaller pieces. If you can get a few minutes at lunchtime, grab it, do it. Just find those little bits of time. If you're not able to make all of the events that we have scheduled, just try and break it up and do some writing whenever you have a chance of doing it. Temporarily put your other hobbies on hold. I did this. I usually do this too. Yeah, especially the no Netflix for a month, or I pick like one show. I'm like, this one show I will watch through the month, but no other show. And choose wisely, because I chose very poorly one time. And also look at being able to do, there's going to be certain days that you can write easily. During the work week, that may be more difficult, right? As you say, you're working, you're commuting, by the time you get home and you've had dinner and all of that, there's only an hour or so, or an hour and a half that you can write. But then look to the weekends as that time to really catch up and pick up and make up the difference later on. So maybe you don't get so much stuff during the week, but you've really hit it hard on Saturdays and Sundays to catch up. Another thing you can consider is if you have vacation days, you can think about taking a few during the month just to help you kind of refresh, get some good rest, and to give you those extra days to do the big bulk of writing as well. I've done this a number of times for the last several years. I at least take a few days off here and there. I really liked for a while, I was doing the Tuesdays and Thursdays off, because then every work day is a virtual Friday. It's a great thing. It's a great thing to do. So try and clear your calendar of other things. I was just checking a few things in the chat, so other people just keep an eye on the chat. Some good ideas are coming in there from Jenny and Nancy. So clear your calendar. One of the things we were going to do is we'll talk about in a little bit here, is announcing your project. Tell your friends, make sure people know what you're doing, and kind of block the time out. So you're not going to be going to as many events and things, and kind of have your friends and family know that that's the way it's going to be for November. And get as much other things done and planned beforehand, so that you're free, even maybe cooking some meals ahead of time, things like that. And then joining up with others, and especially any of those things that kind of tend to be roadblocks for you, coming up with brainstorming the names and things like that. And then if you have friends that are willing to work with you and do other things, you can still meet up with your friends at a coffee shop or even a bar and have a few drinks, Actually, my wife and I will do this sometimes because she'll come along with a book or have some things some videos and stuff she wanted to watch on her phone, and we'll hang out for a couple hours at a local brewery or that, and then after I'm done writing, then we'll hang around for an extra couple of drinks. So getting burned out is another big thing that can happen to you. So some people get a good start going, and other people won't. So if you see, and we kind of talked about this before, if you see that yourself, you're just getting 500 words a day. One of the things that we say is don't stop, keep going. At least you're getting 500 words a day. I mean, you're going to get a third of a nano. If you can get that as a habit now, and you've started a habit to start writing, you can keep that going through the year. And if you keep that going, you'll have completed 4 nanos in a year then. So that's really what we encourage. Anything you're writing is good. Just keep it going. Even if you're not going to hit that 50K, just keep on going and keep on working at it. Good to plan out, and cut and schedule your time. And that's where our events really help you, is scheduling the time. So you'll have a set time of when the write-in starts and ends. It'll be from 6 to 9, whatever it may be. And then that's something you can block off on your calendar. And then that's going to be dedicated writing time. That I try and do even as the year goes on. And then if you can kind of build that into a habit. And it's also good, everybody kind of has their own times of when it's good writing for you. There's a lot of people that the early morning time is the best time to write. A lot of people say that that's when their mind is the clearest and they can really get some stuff done. It's usually a time when they're not getting interrupted as much. It doesn't work well for me because I'm just not a good morning person. I don't wake up refreshed, and I wake up a little out of it. And then I have work with teams in Europe and have to be on calls by relatively early. So then I don't really get much writing done in the morning. So I'm more doing things in the evening. Again, adjust your goal as needed. Take breaks if you're getting burned out. Maybe just kind of take that break, go for a walk, do something else for a little while. We're kind of talking about that kind of helps refresh your brain too, as you go. So we mentioned, one of the things that was really helpful with we had the SMART goals that you set, and then the community helpers, which is you have this whole community of folks worldwide supporting you. You announce your project, let your friends and family know, then they can encourage you. And then if you're in this region, I'm assuming most people that are on the call here are from the western suburbs or somewhere within the Chicagoland area. There is a Chicago region. There's a north suburban region. Come in and home yourself to one of those regions or to us. We're the Naperville region. You'll get those list of events. You'll get encouraging messages throughout the month. You'll be able to locate and meet up with some other people. There's forums and things that are going on. So then you really get that full community working with you, helping with you, all these people that are also doing the same challenge as well. And this slide, and I don't know if we'll be able to get email addresses because we can send this whole package out to folks because there's some good information here in some of the upcoming slides. You'll see all the information for our Naperville region. So once you home yourself to the Naperville region, you'll have all these other links that get you to where the events are, things like that. One thing to point out for our region, we don't use the built-in events on the Nano site. We have a link that you go to that's within our regional forums that gives you all of the events that are going on and the logistics of getting to them, whether there's Zoom links and that. Almost every event we're going to have is going to have, most of them are going to be hybrid. There'll be some purely virtual, and there'll be a couple of them that'll be purely in person. But most of them will be hybrid, where you'll be able to attend in person at a library or virtually over Zoom. And let me just kind of bring this in real quick for folks that may be new to this. So when you come in here, there's a community link in here, and you would go to find a region, and you can see I've set up a few of them. So you look for this USA, Illinois, Naperville region. You can search. It starts always with the. It's a little goofy because they put in these couple of colons in between. And you can start seeing all of the ones from Illinois. And you'll see there's ones for Bloomington Normal, and other ones down farther south. There's even one for DeKalb. So depending on what region you are, again, if you're from a totally different region, you can come in and join one of the ones there. But since most of our events have that virtual component, you can always jump in and join in on our events. And also all of our events are on a Google Calendar. We have, again, this easy link to get to them. This NaPoWriMo.org/events, that will get you right to the calendar and see all of the events that we have going on. And attending those events, that is the one thing that we have testimonial after testimonial over the last several years, that this is the way that people were able to finally get and succeed and get to the 50K. They had tried it on their own a multitude of times, and they didn't succeed until they found our region and started attending the write-ins and doing the word wars, and just that regularly scheduled event, the community, the inspiration from everybody else and encouragement from everybody else, and maybe some of the brainstorming help, all of that accountability, all of that just is one of the main reasons why people have been able to succeed where they have failed in the past during Nano. So we really do encourage you. We're not just, obviously we enjoy it, and we would love to have even more people joining in our region, but this is something that we've definitely heard time and time again, that this is one of the main things that helps them succeed. This is just a quick look at that Google Calendar. So again, the NaPoWriMo.org/events. This is kind of a quick look at what we've got. I think we've even started filling out a few more since this snapshot was taken. But you'll see there's events, especially every weeknight at a library. Sometimes there's a couple of them going on. So every Monday is Glen Ellen. Every Tuesday is Joliet Junior College. Like I said, we go all the way down there. Elmhurst College on Wednesday nights. And then every Thursday is going to be Glenside, which is the Glendale Heights Library. And then occasionally there's some here. A lot of them do also on Thursdays have Aurora. And we're going to try and combine those two together, so that they'll be, when we do that Zoom, it'll be the same Zoom for both of them. So it'll be like one big community getting there. A few other events we do. The first weekend we kick it off with a dueling trains. This will be the first time we've been able to do this in person for a number of years. And we're going to get on 2 different train routes going into the city. And we'll see which group of writers on which train has the most words written by the time they get to Chicago. And then there's a trophy that they get to. It's always hard to get that in with the background going. But there's a trophy that you get to pass around, like the Stanley Cup, then, and be proud of the fact that you won. And actually, that's the biggest competition between Jenny and I. I think she's won the last few years, so I want to keep the trophy this time. And one of the other goal boosters, and we kind of talked about this, touched on this a little bit, but it's good to at least have a little bit of a plan. And this is coming from your Panthers here that are leading this talk today. But it is good to have something, and I at least even usually have at least a bullet list outline. It's good to have around. I think they recommend 20 to 25, and one of the Chris Beatty, who was one of the founders of Nano, suggests, I think, a number around there. Might be even better to have a few more than that, just so that you know what you want to have coming next. If you can, there's all kinds of different plotting things you can go and find on the internet. And a part of this is kind of feeling out, learning whether you're a pantser or a plotter. And there's also even some online quizzes you can do to help you figure out if you don't really know what you are. You'll answer a few questions and they'll say, yeah, you're kind of you sound like a pantser, so don't even plan much at all. But it's recommended to do at least a little bit. Think about who what genre are you going to be writing in? What is going to be your plan? Are you going to be writing a nonfiction novel, fantasy novel, sci-fi? What are you going to be writing? Who is your target audience? At least jot down some of the main characters and give an arc if you can. All of these things will help you as you're going through the month. Have a clear idea of the setting, maybe collect some photos that help remind you of that setting. Creating that one list, even if you're just really know you're a pantser, maybe at least just creating a 1-sentence summary of what the initial conflict is so you kind of can get started, or do that like log line or the back page summary, the back cover summary of the novel, so you have an idea of what you're wanting to go, where you're wanting to end up with this novel. Everybody's going to be different on this. If it's your first time, it's probably good to do a good amount of this ahead of time, just so you have a better idea of what you're ready to write. So when you do kind of get stuck, at least you have an outline, some things to go back to. And yes, there are all kinds of templates that can help with this. All kinds of outlining templates. There's a lot of different things that can kind of do like the different story arcs that you can do. So you can have all kinds of different ones from there. We can certainly point folks to a number of those. And I've looked at a number of them because there's a lot of different ones, one's for mysteries, one's for romance, story arcs for, the hero's journey, the heroine's journey, all of those kind of ones, which will help you kind of figure out what those scenes are and what point, plot points you want to hit as you're going through the month. And I touched on this, being a nano rebel. So really that's doing anything other than the traditional, I'm starting the novel and I'm going to write 50,000 words and complete that novel by the end of the month. So it can be in any different way. So in some cases, maybe you're continuing work on an existing project. Hey, that, you're still writing words. You can still continue to do that and count your words because you're still writing something new, but you're technically a rebel. But if you're doing editing or you're doing plotting or you're doing something else completely, especially if you're editing, you can use your time, track your time, and then convert that into a word count so that you can track it on the Nano site. And the general rule of thumb, and we actually got this from the chairman of the board there of Nano, that 1 hour equals 1,000 words. So basically you're trying to do 50,000 words in 50 hours in 30 days to make the equivalent of the 50,000 words. So a good way of kind of getting some other things done, using all this energy. But it would help to know kind of what you're going to do, especially if you're editing, what kind of editing do you need, so that you're ready when the month starts. If you're doing a developmental edit, it would be good to go back and really reread what you've done, really kind of get an idea of what sections, chapters need the heavy rewrites, If you're just doing line and copy edits, those are a little bit easier because you're just going to be reading through and making the smaller changes within the novel. But if you're going to do a developmental edit, it'd be great if you could get some feedback first so you know some of your weak spots, but really identify the trouble spots and have a plan beforehand. The accountability aspect, and I think we're getting close. We only got like 5 minutes to go here, but I think we're getting pretty close to the end of the slides here. I've mentioned this a few times before, tell your friends to, announce it online, find some writing buddies. You can find those in the events. If you come and join the Naperville region and join our events, you'll find buddies there to keep you accountable and keep you on track. And we were going to do a whole exercise here to kind of have everybody announce their projects online. But I kind of went through it really quickly, but I think we're running out of time here, but we can, if you go in on the site, and you go to the projects. I've brought this up before. This is where you'll go and you'll announce your project and you'll start a new one. So you'll announce the new project and then you'll give a few details about it and then associate it with the Nano 2023. If you want to set a different goal, uncheck this box. Now you can set whatever goal you want. You aren't stuck with that 50,000 word one. I guess at this point, if we can send the slides out to everybody that was registered, then they can kind of go through some of these other slides on their own, because we have some other events coming up. There's another workshop this weekend that we have, and the kickoff's on the 28th. And then there's some links on how to get a hold of us.
Yeah, just send that link to me, or the slides rather, and I'll email everyone
Okay.
registered.
Perfect.
Yeah, and since we're recording tonight, you can also watch this again later, or if you know someone who's interested in NaNoWriMo, they can watch it later on the library's YouTube channel. So look for that. It usually takes our marketing department about a week to post the video.
Okay, so yeah, we'll convert this into a PDF and send it on over. Since we're still got a little bit more time, unless anybody's got any questions on here, this was really our last set of tricks here and tips, but I did want to really highlight one of them was at the end of a writing session. It's good to kind of end at a point where you really know what's going to happen next. If you've already hit your word count, especially for the day, it's good to end at that point. And then when you come back the next day, you already know exactly what you're going to write and you can really jump in and start writing. I think there's a famous author that suggested that one and does it that way. So. Any other questions, put them in the chat. We can answer them now or at least get back to you later. If not, we hope to see you all in November or this Saturday. Or at the kickoff. Yes. Or at midnight on November 1st. So I will be hosting a virtual write-in right at midnight. So. And yes, at the kickoff, there will be pizza provided it'll be at the Glen Ellyn Library on the 28th.
Wow, everyone's saying thank you, thank you, thank you. This was great. Thank you so much, Sam.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right, and we'll send out those slides soon. And then, like I said, in about a week, we'll have this video posted on our YouTube channel. So feel free to share that. All right.
All right.
Looks good. Well,
Thanks,
thank
everyone.
you again, Sam. This was great, and good luck to everyone with NaNoWriMo.